Well, I hope you all had a wonderful Monday and are ready to get some info on the NFL. Today, I want to discuss the Jamal Adams trade, some salary cap news, and then finally, the opt-out deal between the NFL and the NFL Players Association. So, are you ready to get your fix? Well, not too long ago, I brought you guys some news saying that Jamal Adams wanted to be traded out of New York and had a list of about 8 teams that he would like to be traded to. Well, one of those 8 teams decided to trade for him, and that team was the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seattle Seahawks traded away safety Bradley McDougald, a first and third round pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, as well as a first round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, to the New York Jets for safety Jamal Adams, and a fourth round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. This is a very, very solid deal for the Jets, as now they have a lot of assets so that they'll be able to draft really good, young, up-and-coming kind of players. Like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, or some kind of player that they need to address. I'm just naming off a couple quarterbacks, but I don't think they need a quarterback. They got Sam Darnold there, but it's just kind of an example. But after Jamal Adams made his trade request public, the New York Jets knew that they had to trade him, okay? Because if they didn't, he's gonna become a problem in the locker room and on the field, and it's just bad for team morale. So the Jets got set up real nice, I'd say, and then the Seahawks amped up their defense even more. Okay, I feel as if this year's Seattle Seahawks defense will look very, very similar to when they had the Legion of Boom in Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, Brandon Browner, and Bobby Wagner. I mean, that defense was scary good, okay? And I think that this year's defense will look very similar. At safety, the Seattle Seahawks, they have Quandre Diggs, who came over from the Detroit Lions, and they got Jamal Adams now, who came from the Jets, which will more than likely be probably the best safety duo we will see this season. At cornerback, they have Quentin Dunbar. I believe he came over from, I want to say the Lions, but I also want to say the Eagles for some reason. But I know he wasn't on the Jets to begin. Then they also got Trey Flowers, who's pretty good. And then a very, very good corner in Shaquille Griffin, who plays a lot like Richard Sherman. And I think he's kind of almost identical to Richard Sherman, even though Richard Sherman in his career so far has, I think I seen a stat today, he has 39 interceptions and only 17 touchdowns on him. So that Legion of Boom you can kind of see was ridiculously good. But this secondary, it's going to rip offenses apart, okay? I honestly believe this secondary is capable of holding any offense to about 150 to 200 passing yards a game. I mean, this team is, in my eyes, now more than equipped to make a far run in the playoffs. I think if everything falls in place for the Seahawks, they could easily have an MVP quarterback, Russell Wilson. They could have 2 of the top wide receivers in DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, with one probably getting 1,000 receiving yards and the other probably 800 or close to 1,000 receiving yards. They do lack at running back a little bit. They have Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, who both were hurt last year. So they had to bring in Marshawn Lynch, who knows what he's going to be up to this season. But, I mean, then you go look at their defense, which could be able to hold teams to probably 14 points or less a game, okay, and allow little passing yards with a very good linebacker crew who will be able to eat up that run game. I just think, I mean, with this addition of Jamal Adams, it really won't surprise me if the Seattle Seahawks end up somehow getting to the Super Bowl. This is just going to be an absolutely ridiculous team. I get that they had the addition of Jadeveon Clowney last year that they thought was going to be that star player, that guy who was going to be that, put him to that next step, that next level in the playoffs, but it didn't happen. He's not on that team anymore. He's still a free agent. But Jamal Adams coming over, helping that secondary so that offenses will probably not more than likely be able to pass that ball. They won't be able to do that. It's going to be very tough. And people forget Jamal Adams, I believe, had 4 sacks or something like that, ridiculous or something like that. But yeah, I mean, this is a new revamped team. They're looking to make a run, and they very well could. So switching gears to the salary cap, in which I told you guys could end up dropping about $40 to $50 million this season, depending on what the NFL and the NFL Players Association voted on. Well, this won't be the case, as on Friday, the NFL and the NFL Players Association made a deal that there will be no impact on the 2020 salary cap, so it will remain at $198 million. Also, a part of that deal is that the salary cap cannot drop lower than $175 million next year, but it can go higher if the revenues come in better than expected. It was also noted that if the cap does take a hit, that it will spread out through it'll spread out 4 years, so until the 2024 season. So, for example, if the revenues are not so good and the cap needs to be lowered, that they will take a percentage of whatever the amount is and then spread it throughout the next 4 seasons, so that it doesn't just take a big hit right away, which is probably what owners were kind of not wanting to happen. They were kind of scared on that fact that it would just take a huge hit this year and next year, but it's not going to be the case. It's going to spread out. It's going to give teams a little more leeway. It's a good idea. This is just huge for the owners, okay? So they don't end up losing a big chunk of money. Like I just said, if they had to do it this and next year, it would have been more devastating than it is spreading it out through 4. This also, though, ensures that teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, who made big deals this offseason, know that they can still be able to afford paying those players. I'm glad that this deal was approved, and the way they went about it with spreading it out over the next 4 years is brilliant, and now it's time for some football. The salary cap move, like I said, brilliant. I love it. They got to keep doing it. With this virus thing, it just kind of shoots everything down, and they figured out what to do with it, and I'm glad that they finally made that choice. Like I was listening earlier today to Colin Cowherd. He said that the NFL is in a good spot, okay? They can watch the MLB, they can watch the UFC, they can watch MLS, they can watch all these teams or all these sports leagues and say, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh, I can do that. Don't do this. Don't, something like that. They already know. They can already watch and see what to do and what not to do. And they're taking it one step at a time. They're doing it at big chunks. They're meeting almost every day now to get the season, or try to get the season to start on time. So moving over to another deal, though, that was reached between the NFL and the NFL Players Association was the opt-out agreement. Now, this was one of the big questions that remained unknown, if players would be able to opt out and what the compensation would be. Well, I believe it was either Friday or Saturday that the story broke that there will be about 2 types of opt-outs, which are irrevocable, and they're due 7 days from the NFL and NFLPA deal being finalized, which Tom Pelissero actually came out and announced on Twitter the other day. So that means since Friday or Saturday, they have 7 days, so probably till this Friday or Saturday, they have till then to opt out of the season. Now, the first type of opt-out is high risk, in which players who are at high risk and opt out, they will receive about $350,000 stipend with no offset and accrued or credited season. So you're still getting a chunk of money if you opt out because you're high risk. You're going to get a little more than the next opt-out deal. So the other opt-out is voluntary, and if players voluntarily opt out, they're going to receive $150,000 salary advance, no accrued or credited season. So you're still going to get some money. You're not going to get a lot. You're going to get a little, but it's something to keep you getting paid. So, I mean, this is a good deal, okay, for the players. So that they actually know that they are still going to receive money if they're not going to be playing, okay? Some people just can't help not playing because they have the virus or they're at high risk for it and they need to opt out. Some players don't have that choice, okay? Some players will voluntarily back out. The first person to actually voluntarily opt out was the Kansas City Chiefs right guard, Dr. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, or Tardif, I can't remember how to say his last name, but who will instead actually work to continue as an orderly at a long-term care facility in Canada, helping fight COVID-19, which he's been doing since about the start of this. He went and has been doing this as a doctor. So another thing, though, just kudos to this guy for doing so and committing himself to putting the world really ahead of his career in the NFL. I think his doctor career is a lot more, how do you say it? Probably just, he needs to be a doctor more than he would be a football player, I think. I think a doctor would be more, he would have more longevity as a doctor than he would playing football. But like I said again, we're just going to say kudos to that guy. Keep doing what you're doing, and just help us get through this. But another thing to note now on some deals is on the base salaries. So any amount of a player's salary that is not paid in 2020 becomes guaranteed in the future year. Okay, it just won't be paid right now. So if a player is a free agent, there's a pool of money from the NFL to make up any shortfall in a future contract, because if the salary cap does become shortened or lowered, then these players probably won't be getting the contract that they should have if this virus didn't make it so the salary cap would drop. So they would have a little bit more compensation. Now, this is huge news, I feel, for players, as they now know, they know that they will still be able to receive all the money that they were given. And this will make it a lot easier for players to make a choice on if they would like to opt out or not. Okay, because they know they're going to still get their money that they were guaranteed if they opt out. They're only going to get that $150,000 if they voluntarily do, but they're still going to get that guaranteed money that they were supposed to get in the future years. So, I mean, all good news, okay, for players who were worried about money due to the virus. With all these deals finally being approved, we can now, and I mean now, we can finally play some football. Teams are reporting to training camp. Tom Brady just reported to Tampa Bay not too long ago. He was in the facility getting used to things. I just seen Justin Herbert and a couple other rookies with the Chargers working out. So one day at a time, we're going to get there. I believe it's 40-some days, 48 days or something like that, till football is actually kicked off. And I can't wait. Okay, I just can't. So we talked about the Jamal Adams trade, some salary cap news, and the opt-out deal between the NFL and NFL Players Association. So with that, I'd like to say thanks for stopping by. We'll see you Friday, and you just got your fix with the Wicks.